Are we recording? Yes. All right. We're recording now for anyone who couldn't join us, and also wanted to share this with Andrea and Eric. They couldn't be here today, but wanted to say hello, and they send their love and thanks for everything you guys do. We know Andrea really runs this place, but anyway, wanted to give you some really quick updates, and I very, very much appreciate you taking time to fill out the Google form. We're actually going to look at that in just a minute with your opinions. Didn't ask for your name because this isn't like an accountability piece. It's just trying to get all of us kind of in the same space, thinking through expectations and follow through. And Laura, hearing that you're new, along with me, just quick background for me too. I live here in Kansas and work out of the Ottawa. Oh, Susan, I miss Susan. Oh, I'm so sorry. Susan, go, and I apologize.
That's okay.
She said I'm here too.
Yeah, I know. Just to get all the way to the end of the alphabet, sometimes it's a little tricky. I've been teaching for Ottawa for about a year and a half. I teach graduate courses in the ed tech area. I've taught the let me think what the name of these courses are. Foundations in Ed Tech. Last semester, I taught instructional design and technology integration. I'll also be teaching the intro course this spring as well. So, and that's been really terrific. I have worked in higher education for many years. I'm actually now semi-retired. In my last full-time position, I was the Associate Provost for Teaching and Learning at the University of Denver. And now I'm doing mostly consulting and doing some speaking. And I also work part-time as a freelance editor and proofreader. So I do a lot of proofreading work for dissertations, which is great because I learn a lot when I do that. And I like working with the students. So happy to be teaching for Ottawa again this term.
You are a blessed soul, because I barely made it through my dissertation. I can't imagine reading someone else's and acting interested. So thank you for being so amazing. And my little strip only shows so many things, and I forgot to scroll down. So thank you for speaking up. And that will not happen again. All right, so here we are back into things. I'm here at Overland Park in the Overland Park location for Ottawa. And I just came out of 20 years in the classroom. I've taught K through 12. I started as a music teacher and then ended up teaching English and then social studies and then ELL, English language learners. And that became my heart and my love. That's what all my dissertation work was on. And just joined Ottawa here as lead faculty for the graduate professional studies in July. So I am literally drinking from the fire hose, and I'm learning. My parents warned me, they're both in higher ed. They both have their doctorates. So I was fair warned that higher ed works at its own pace, and that pace might seem a little slow, but it's just how it works. So in my opinion, we are working at light speed right now, and that's a good thing. Great things are happening. Can I just start with that? Awesome, fantastic, great things are happening. We have a new dean, not new, but returning, Dr. Amy Hogan. She is absolutely putting her people forward in all different areas and saying, these are your gifts, go, do it. There's been lots of support, lots of accountability and communication. So please know that I feel like, as someone who's new, we are bringing a level of quality and quantity back to our graduate programs where it might have been lacking just because no one was here to speak life into that, especially on this side in Kansas. So nobody did anything wrong. Nothing was bad. It just was a bit stagnant, and we're just refreshing things. So some updates with the Dreaming Big piece. We have gotten approval from Kansas State to bring back our Building Leadership Master's degree. We are waiting for board approval, which will come in February. Just as an update, if you've taught a course that was previously involved with the building leadership things, and you're like, why am I not teaching that again? It's probably because your load was too full and we weren't able to ask you to be a SME. And as you know, whoever is the SME, we asked them to teach it that first time. So there's going to be some reconfiguring, but that doesn't mean that that's the way it's going to be forever. We're just in flux right now. I'm going to stop for a minute. Anybody have any questions or concerns? Good. And you can chat too with me. I can handle that, I think, clearly. So yay, thank you, Laura. One of the things too that we are adding in to all of our master's programs within education is a required membership to ASCD. So if you're not already a member, I would highly suggest that you do that just so that you can stay kind of in the know. And if you are someone, and I know there are a couple of you on this call, if you're someone who has been asked to refresh or rewrite some of these courses for building leadership or CNI or anything else that's going on at the master's level, could you please make sure that at least a couple times within your assignments or your discussions, you are asking them to reference their ASCD membership. They have this huge online availability for articles and things. What my hope is that they'll start to realize this isn't always about going back and finding archival data or looking backwards, but instead looking at real time and finding encouragement from the articles that are included there. Principals and schools and districts who are just doing amazing things to turn kids around. When we're looking at foundations of exceptionality and we're looking at students who have special needs and the legal side of things, principalship, doing almost like a character study of principles that they found through those ASCD articles. They're free. They can print them off. They can do an easy search. But please, if I could ask that ASCD membership and that resource be a part of every single course. It will justify their, I think, $39 a year investment in it. So it's not like asking them to buy a textbook, but for me, it's part of that pedagogical side and that constant revival of what's going on in the world and having a touch point. I have created...
Casey?
Yes.
It's Denise. So you're recommending all of us join ASC if we're not members? Yes.
I think it would be wonderful.
I love it. But
you can access their stuff without being a member.
Yeah, you can.
I mean, you really can. It's just not as in-depth, and some of the articles you only get a little portion. You don't get to see.
Yeah, it is a great resource. I didn't know if we had a university membership that we could all access or what. And I'm sorry, I missed you saying you thought the students at the master's level would benefit.
Well, they're going to be asked, and like in learning theory, which is one of the first classes.
Okay. And I don't have a problem with that. I just wanted to be sure we were all on the same.
No, I appreciate the clarity. And I just had a question too on the chat about, well, is this for everybody, not specifically even in K through 12 environment? Well, really, the people that we're training are in K through 12 environments. So that's why they need to be a part of it. And yes.
Occasionally we do have students that are going through the master's program that are not ed.
Okay.
And so I don't know how we would want to handle that because like on campus, there's not a lot, but some students that are not focused on ed, but they're GAs, graduate assistants, and they kind of morph into there and they like into curriculum and instruction and they.
So that's actually on my notes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Let's just jump there because that is one of the things that I'm finding. The GA students who are thrown into this curriculum instruction, they have no background, no real draw or connection to the classroom. And even within one of these classes I just rewrote, I did a case study in there, but what I did was you could choose either you're working with students that have these profile elements or you could choose an adult that has these profile elements because I was specifically thinking of GA students. So here's my thing. If you are, Susan, I'm reading your, yeah. So if Susan, I have a feeling most of your students are with the tech side And these, I need to clarify, and you brought up a good point. These classes that I'm talking about are for curriculum and instruction, building leadership, and we have a third program that we're working on right now for paras who want to become teachers. So if you're in learning technologies, getting your master's, what I'm saying does not relate to you right now. Does that help, Susan?
Yes, that helps. I'm
glad you asked. No, I didn't say it, and you're right to ask, because really learning technologies, it's over in its own little world, and it is relevant. It's ready to go. It's these things on this side of the K through 12 platform and masters that I'm referring to. Does that help? So good. Okay, we got that clarified a little bit. But Denise, also, I think for those GA folks, having that ASCD membership allows them to gain a little context and understanding to the K through 12 world. So when they're joining this, and I don't know who keeps putting them in CNI, I feel like they're not getting good advising. I don't know.
Well, I think one of the problems on campus is we have a lot of GAs. And sometimes there's no fit. They can't be leadership.
Yeah.
They don't qualify or have an interest in business. There's just not a lot of options. So it's kind of a fallback of CNI. Yeah.
Well, and I'm happy to have them because they bring great perspective, and I've had great luck with mine, but they have needed a bit more coddling and understanding that, well, you're just gonna have to make it up. Pretend like you're in a classroom. What would you teach if it's a perfect world? Moving on, because I can't slow everybody.
Well, yeah, and I think that's an issue with students, is that they always have this, well, this or that, and it's like, then you're just going to have to pretend.
Become a child again. So good. Well, thank you for walking me through that one. But yes, you are correct. This is more for the folks who are headed to the K through 12 world. And I do think either way, it does provide some insight into reality and what educators are up against. And in my opinion, the more advocates we can have for educators out there, the better. So even if they're in business and they know what teachers go through. All right, so moving on through, you'll see there on my screen, we have a Twitter and Instagram account now, which I'm very excited about. If you're on either one of those platforms, if you could follow us, that would be great. I also would like to start having instructor and staff profiles being featured on our Instagram page. So I will be tagging some of you here in the near future to send me some pictures of your pets and your family, and your favorite place, your books that you're reading right now, what you love about Ottawa. I've actually got kind of like a list of questions that you can choose from. You don't have to answer all of them. But what I'm trying to do is provide a sense of community for a lot of our students. And I would love to have your students follow us on these pages. I would love for them to feel like this is their social media place to be, because Facebook sometimes isn't one of those places where students really go to anymore, or they just keep it private because they don't want their parents seeing. So instead, I'm going to Instagram and Twitter, and would love to have you be a part of that. All right, so moving on through. Are we okay? Anybody have questions or issues? We're good? All right, Blackboard. We are in a fantastic place. Hopefully all of you have been able to, or you are scheduled for your update for the new Blackboard platform, which isn't a huge deal, but I want to make sure I draw your attention to this right here, this OU Communities. Right now, this has a lot more influence on our undergrad programs than our graduate, but and this is not live, so you wouldn't be able to access it right now. But you see here where it says Teacher Education Information. When you click on OU Communities, and it goes here. I have asked our academic advisors, Connie, Anita, and Ashley, new girl here, to be the ones, the gatekeepers that send students to this. Because what we're doing is we're treating this as almost a clearinghouse of information that undergraduate students have got to know. The Teacher Ed Handbook, there's a handbook quiz. We have professional dispositions. We have a quiz embedded in that. Not on here yet are in-task standards and the strong checklist. So this is like a kind of common breatheway that everybody will have to go through, and what I've asked the advisors to do, because they do have instructor level access to this, is to tell the kids, hey, you need to go here, you're gonna need to check this. I have a way of looking to see if you finished everything. I'll look at your quiz grades and everything, and then let's talk and do your plan for graduation. I just feel like it's so much better to hand the responsibility back to these students to say, we're gonna support you and help you and remind you, but it is your initiative that makes all this successful. So we need you to go visit this first. I'm wondering how this OU Communities idea maybe could be used to streamline common documents and resources within the graduate level. I don't have that answer. Putting that out there to you, something to think about, and maybe get back with me to say, hey, I'm noticing in all my classes this thing is being missed. These adult learners are not getting this, they're not getting that. Well, let's send them here, and let's ask those advisors to help us hold them accountable if it's something that we all share. Any questions or comments about OU Communities? Good. All right. I'm at the wrong thingy. Where'd my, I don't know where my thing went. Oh, well, I'll find it here in just a minute. Oh, there it is. All right. Watermark. Everybody's heard it's kind of become like a 4-letter word to me, watermark. It is a online gathering of data and completed work, especially signature assignments. Watermark is required for those who are completing counseling, school psych, and leadership. The new program that we're getting approval for and hopefully will start in fall 2021 will be an elementary ed master's and teacher certification that also will require it. If you have any questions about Watermark or VIA, information is coming. Matt is making some videos, but if you go on Blackboard and you see that little Watermark VIA thing in the menu, just wanted to make you aware there are some responsibilities that go with that, but I'm not going to get into it today. You can learn more about it through Matt's videos. Questions, comments? All right. Within the shells for these courses that are being redone, we really are trying to have less text in the shells and more resources to really kind of differentiate instruction in real time. So more opportunities to hear the same thing in a different way, and also kind of turning our students back to the textbooks. Within a course I just redid, the Teaching Profession 1. We'll show it to you here really quickly. And I'm going to move faster than the other stuff, so don't worry. You will notice that our overview is uber short. There's our learning materials. I'm asking them to, well, that's not this course, that's another one. And then here, when we go into the learning resources, we have a quick little blurb. There's their introduction, a quick little thing for effective teaching, but it is no longer those long, all the way down page kind of thing. We don't want students to be able to read what's on Blackboard and have basically everything they need for the course. We want them to dig deeper and have a little more accountability. Any concerns or comments about that? Yeah, Alan.
I like the idea, but is it built? I don't know this course, obviously you just redid it, but my guess is if you have, the limited content, but you want students to dig deeper, that's wonderful, but I'm not sure how many would do that on their own. Are the assignments linked with that? Obviously they have to work on the assignments, but with the lack of content, not lack of content, but with a different approach, it's going to be a revision for the student mindset. So whatever is included here that you're encouraging students to dig deeper, are we integrating that with the assessments and the assignments and things of that nature? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
No, that makes perfect sense. And you're exactly right. They go hand in hand, the front end and the back end, where the assignments you really would have had, like for instance here, Chapter 1 and Chapter 8, we're talking about qualities of effective teaching. And if you go here, the assignment is actually these 3 articles. And they are going to provide these 5 sections for these articles. So I didn't give them anything except the resources there. This first week isn't a great example of that. But within the discussions. Here we are in week 1. Refer to the 4 C's of effective teaching. Reflect on your own experience. Okay, those 4 C's are in the text. I didn't provide it here in the shell. Which of the 4 areas were carried out effectively? Which ones were lacking? Without providing specific names, you're reflecting on your own experience in the classroom.
Yeah, that answers my question.
Okay, yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because you're right. We can't shift the delivery and not shift what we're expecting from them. Totally agree. And those of you who are helping rewrite things right now, it's just something to keep in mind. It is not a hard and fast rule. You need to write how you write. You're the expert in your area. I was not a principal. I was not a superintendent. I cannot write to those courses. But when you think about this format of things, it just helps make sure that we're steering students to where they need to go in the way of being accountable themselves. Issues with relevance or needed updates. If you teach a course and you see it and you're like, this may have been popular in the 80s, but it's not happening now, please, please, please email me. I'm not saying I'll be able to do this perfectly or have all the answers, but at least I have a red flag waved. Nicole asked in the chat, is soft chalk going away? Yes, and that's part of why a lot of these courses are being revised, because originally they were in soft chalk. That is now completely gone. Not yet completely, but that's the hope. All right, and we have, yeah, you're welcome. And then our next one is, oh, do you have a question?
I do. I don't know the answer to this, but teaching profession is sometimes waived for students who've taken it, for instance, at JUCO.
Yeah.
And I think that's a problem because they don't get the information, although the teacher education introduction thing that you showed us will help immensely. But I really think everybody, I don't care where you took teaching profession or intro to teaching or whatever, I really think we should think through making everybody just take it.
You know, that was actually a really great discussion between Connie and Amy and myself, because I was asking the same question, why do we allow? This is an undergrad conversation we might have to have later, but I asked Connie for the data and it showed over 60% of our students who transfer in come with this class. So I felt like taking that away and making them take it might have a negative impact on enrollment. I could be wrong, and I think we need to revisit it, but that's why we went through the advisors for that OU community, because you're right. We don't get to see everybody in teaching profession, and we had no other gateway to make sure we tagged everybody. You're exactly right. I agree with you, actually, and I think we need to keep talking about it.
I agree. I hear what you're saying, and I understand it, and I know we take courses, but
I know.
So something to be said for this is our introduction.
Yeah,
you just have to take it, and I can't believe that would be a deal breaker, but I understand. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, definitely one. Not at all a finished conversation for sure. Thanks, Denise. Hopefully everyone has attended one of the training sessions with Matt or Kareen for the new Blackboard. It's very helpful, very quick and easy. All right, moving on to APA. You guys had some great feedback about APA when it came to our requirements and kind of how you see things. We're going to come back to discussions in a little bit. You'll see that most of you, it was title page formatting, references, hanging indent, and correct in-text citations. That's kind of where you were real heavy on things. And I agree with you. I also am a little confused by some of the changes in the latest APA, and I'm not sure if you've had time to look at it. I'm going to email you these agenda notes here, so don't worry about writing everything down. I'll send these to you. But I want to make sure you see some resources in the portal about the updated APA piece of this whole thing. Here's how you get to it. I've put the steps right here, but we're going to do it together. And I only want to show you a couple things. This won't take long. When you go here to the portal and click on faculty, and then you go to professional development. After you're in professional development, training and development resources area, they make it so easy to find this, and APA resources. So once you're here in APA, and I don't know what you guys are going to do, here's what I'm going to do. This student sample paper, the annotated student sample paper, the reference list quick guide, and the heading levels template. I'm not doing heading levels because I hate headings. I don't ever ask my students to use them. If they do it, great, but I don't care. George has put this together for us, and I'm going to put this in my announcements in Course Cafe on my first one because I want students to be able to reference it again and again. Of course, I got it here. There's a new title page, as you can see through APA. One of the biggest things is that the very first time that a student utilizes a source with 3 or more authors, they do not have to list all the authors anymore. They can immediately start with et al., which is odd to me. However, in the references, there's no longer a limit. I think it used to be 9, like that after 9, or you put ... in the middle. Now you got to list them all. So they get you in the references, but they let you have it in the paper. So this is a sample paper. It's got the middle, it's got the headings here, it has the correct margins, all of those things. It's a great thing for students to reference. And then, why do I have so many things open? This
Tracy or Casey, I'm sorry.
Yes, it's okay, I answered anything.
I haven't looked really too much into this, but on that sample paper, are they not requiring the header?
No, they've gotten rid of headings.
No, not the heading. I forgot what you call it. You know, at the top where you have the small version of your title. What do they call that?
Like a running head?
Yeah, running head.
Yeah. Oh,
that wasn't in the student sample paper.
You should have gone to our dissertation lady there. Yeah. Yeah, running heads. They don't have running heads.
Oh, they don't have that anymore.
Don't. So you got this kind of thing here. I'll let you take a look at that as you want.
Yeah, I honestly haven't had a chance to look at the changes.
That's okay.
I didn't see the running head, and I thought, they got rid of that?
Yeah. So he also made a PowerPoint, which I thought was in here, but I guess it's not. I have it here somewhere. Well, anyway, lots of great resources here to let you look at that later because I don't want to take up more of your time. But it is one of those things where when a student has a question, I was just hoping as a group we could talk really quickly about, you know, the difference between being a learning environment, learning community, and a place that's just trying to get you. And I come from P through 12, so I'm probably a little more on the gracious side of things, but I am a bit of a hard nose when it comes to APA. If I told you once, I'm not telling you a second time. You're in your master's program. This is ridiculous. I still have students who are writing, John, he went to the store, and I'm having to say you do not need the pronoun when the subject is in the sentence. I don't understand why I have to say this, but alas, it happens. So thinking of APA, looking at the majority of us, I think we're all basically there. I just know for me, I would like to be able to respond to a student's comment of, well, that's not what my other professor said, with, actually, your professor and I have talked and we're all on the same page. And yeah, this is kind of the, I mean, it can't be exactly the same, let's put it that way. But to be able to say, hey, we're going to make sure that we help you and support you, but then there's accountability behind it. So I think we'll probably have to all kind of unmute and just maybe wave and look at each other. But when it comes to APA formatting and the weight of it within the grade, when should resubmissions be allowed? How do you handle this? And there's no right or wrong here. Alan, go for it.
When it comes to APA format, there is actually, we have to be careful here with that when we say with the other instructors, because there is some weight to the fact that not all instructors are consistent with addressing APA format. I know that from my mentoring, and I also, one of my other roles is I review courses, and I do find countless instructors who do not address APA format at all, or are inconsistent with it. And I've had students, I've been able to see students in some classes turn in types of paper that wasn't addressed by instructors, and then they get to my class or another class where it is addressed, and there is that overlap. So we need to be a little bit careful with that point with APA format, because we're not consistent as a faculty across the university when it comes to APA format, and that includes the School of Education as well. So I just want to just throw that out there, that we have to be careful with that, because just talking about it doesn't always translate to results with that. So we do need to address that point. I do agree with you, point 2 of 3. I do agree with you that, you know, we should keep addressing APA format, not let it slack, because there is an issue of plagiarism. There is issues with that graduate level students should know how to do that. Of course, it doesn't necessarily need to be the majority of the grade, but if we just put a slap on our wrist, we don't address it, then we're not doing them any favors. We're not doing the students any favors, but we still don't lose the content with that as well. And then as far as resubmission, I personally am not a fan of blanket resubmissions being allowed, because I don't think that holds students accountable, but I'm also not against allowing for some resubmission to happen. I think there needs to be a lot of instructor leeway with that. A lot of that should be in the hands of the instructor, depending on the circumstances, because not all circumstances are created equal.
It's true.
I agree with Alan. Great comments. I ran into a huge buzzsaw a couple years ago when I started teaching some master's classes, because as Alan shared, apparently some people, I have no idea who, were not addressing APA. And I was getting students who were saying, this is my 4th master's class and nobody's ever told me that. Nobody's ever, I mean, it was pretty vicious, the fallout I was getting from students. And I would write copious notes from what Casey was saying about, this is wrong. And then the second time, apparently they don't read the notes. They just want to know what their grade is. So then they would just continue to do it all the way through. As far as resubmission, if a student asks me to resubmit, I do think it is about learning, but I take off. It's 10% off, or the 2 are averaged, or as Alan said, it's kind of up to the instructor to make a decision. But I think as the 8 weeks progresses, they need to be held more accountable, because it isn't happening. And maybe it's gotten better because I haven't taught a class for a few years. But it was pretty horrific.
No, and I'm finding even the classes that ask them to purchase the APA handbook, they're not buying it. And so it goes back to what Alan was saying. We're not doing them any favors by ignoring it, but we want to hold their hands to it too, when they were supposed to buy the textbook and they could look up how to do that title page. But I don't know, it's hard for me to balk on that when I have so many other bigger things that I want them to learn. Like things
the Purdue OWL is a great online source, which I'm sure we all know. And, I again would say repeatedly, go to the Purdue OWL and look at the sample paper. And apparently they weren't doing that. And I do know that between institutions, there are differences in style. Although at Ottawa, I don't think we've really addressed any style. This is how we're doing it here.
Well, I think George's attempt to do that is his attempt to do that. And I do know, I asked him, is the library going to adopt this? Because when I send kids to the library website, it says one thing at Ottawa, this is another thing. We got to get on the same page, man. And he said they are. So I don't know. Anybody else? Justin?
One challenge I have is, if a student really reads the assignment description, it may be your expectation, because you've taught it multiple times, that this should be an APA, but when it's not specifically in there, and then you dig into how the rubric is written, if you're trying to be fair and follow what the assignment description says and how the rubric is written, you're really limited on the number of points at times you can deduct.
Most of the time, I'm seeing the rubric, it's not really too detrimental, even if they completely mess up the APA styling or even grammatical issues. It seems to be more heavily weighted in content, which I'm sure is always good. But I think,
Kristen, are you wanting more weight?
It's important to write professionally and speak.
Justin, are you wanting more weight put on that? Or are you thinking that
No, I'm not necessarily asking for more weight. I'm just...
You're right, you're limited.
Like Denise just said, somebody may blow it off, but if you truly look at the rubric, it might only be 5 out of 50 points that is grading APA formatting. So if I continue every week to tell them, make sure you're looking at the rubric, and then I take off 20 points because you're not following APA format, that's not fair to the students. So
You're right.
personally, I wouldn't take off more because I'm looking more about who is the next principal I would hire, or who is the next superintendent. If I'm doing a search, I would recommend. But the rubric definitely guides how much I can or can't take off, I feel like.
I think you're right that that is our guideline and our ceiling for things. So I guess for me, it's more of an emphasis, like what Alan was saying, that everyone is actually looking at it and providing some sort of, when I have in my classes, my last 2 graduate ones, I had great feedback from the students about this. I said for the first 2 weeks, I will be providing APA feedback on your papers. You turn your paper in on Sunday. I'm going to have it back to you by Tuesday. If you make the changes and turn it back to me by Friday, this is only in weeks 1 and 2, I will give you points back because I want you to learn how to do it. But after week 2, I'm no longer commenting on it. I'm just taking off the points. This is a learning community, but we probably covered everything in week 1 or 2. Maybe I went to week 3 if it was something else, but it is definitely more about content for me. For me, it's just a matter of like, I want a level of professionalism and a level of, this is graduate school now. You're not an undergrad anymore. I'm not holding your hand. Stop acting like you can make excuses. This is the requirement. I'm trying to read Alan's note here in chat. 2 different ones. Yes, I'm the same way. Content 80 to 90%. I agree. I always send my kids back to say, have you talked to the tutoring center? Did you send this in early? Have you utilized your resources? We give you so many opportunities to be helped. Yeah. Alan, any clarification on that? No? Okay. All right. Well, I think really for me, this was more of a conversation I wanted to have to hear so that I wasn't off base on what I was doing, or that I wasn't spending too much time providing feedback that was falling on deaf ears. I have had the same comment, Denise, this is my 3rd class and no one's ever, and I'm like, I just want to call you a liar, but I won't because I'm a professional.
Oh man, and I'm not kidding you. Some of those students,
I know, they're slippy.
unfortunately, there were some that really couldn't write a sentence, and they were in the master's program. I'm not kidding. And they got vicious with me, really.
Okay. I love it. Well, I'm going to try to rush through here because we've got about 15 minutes left. So this is our last heavy thing. Stay with me. You guys are doing awesome. Discussions. I have found that students the way that the rubric is written for discussion prompts within the whole university level, to me, can be interpreted in multiple ways, and that can cause issues between expectation and reality for an instructor and a student. So my expectation is your initial post is on Wednesday. You responded to 2 different people on 2 different days between Wednesday and Sunday. But I have run into multiple students who said, well, it said post 2 different days. I posted on Wednesday, I posted on Sunday. What's the problem? And I'm having to explain to them, this is about interaction and about conversation. So I am going into the courses that I'm writing in within the syllabus I'm putting that you need to post your initial post by Wednesday and respond to 2 different people on 2 different days between Wednesday and Sunday. Responses only submitted on Sunday will receive deducted points because you didn't participate. You just checked something off. And the whole idea is that it's not something that actually holds weight in their eyes. Susan said a problem with the rubric, 60% is considered competent. What do you mean? Sorry.
I'm looking at the rubric, the discussion rubric, and the way the points break down in this rubric is that for every one of the criteria, 2 to 3 points is called competent. Now, 3 out of 5 is 60%. you could, and 2 points, I mean, really? So if a student got all, like, in that, within that category, within that competent category, they could get all of their points in there, and that it'd be failing according to the grading structure.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you're right.
Wow.
This is, I do a lot of writing and talking about assessment and about rubrics, and this is one of the big problems with rubrics, is that the points awarded do not align with the grading scale. This is a really common problem. The other problem that I see is that the content and critical thinking categories are worth the same amount of points as the mechanics. So in other words, spelling and grammar, it's saying that that's just as important as having good content and having good critical thinking. And I think that's, I'm not sure that that was really the intent. I think content and critical thinking are more important. But according to this, those things are all equally important. So I find that to be a problem as well.
There's no weight given to one thing over another.
Correctamundo.
So in your perfect world, Susan, how would you break things down?
So I actually, last year in one of the classes I taught, I probably wasn't supposed to do this, but I went through and changed the points on the rubric because I thought this is crazy. I actually, and I typically don't use weighting on the points because I find that students are very confused by that. I just say, okay, if this is worth 20 points, what I'm going to do is say, okay, content, let's say that content, you're going to get like 6 points or 7, critical thinking, 6 or 7, and drop the mechanics down to be worth fewer points, for example. The other thing that I would do is say, unengaged in activity would be 0, novice could be maybe 1, competent could be 2, 2 points, so that it aligns with the grading scale. Or you could even just call competent, something like unsatisfactory or whatever. But I think
where do I find the rubric on here? Why am I having a hard time finding this? Can someone help me?
If you go to course tools.
Yeah, but tools isn't, oh no, yes it is. I'm an idiot. Okay.
There's you can click rubrics and it will show you the list of all the rubrics.
There we go. There we go. Yeah. Rubric found in, I don't know. This is
okay, and the one that I'm looking at, and maybe it's just because of the program I teach in. Oh, now see, yours are different. Okay, the program I teach in, the rubric is called New Discussion Forum Rubric, which, I don't know. But it's the same for all the courses in the EDC.
So that I unfortunately would not be able to comment on. I think for me, the biggest thing on this is that nowhere in here, and Alan brought this to my attention too, nowhere in here does it talk about when you post. This has no focus or emphasis on interactions back and forth at different times. So it was hard for me to even find support. And Alan, you bring up a good point of supporting the university expectation of things. Can I really say, and I really am asking, can I really say that that is a requirement that you post between Wednesday and Sunday? Or is posting on Wednesday and posting on Sunday absolutely fine? Because unless I'm missing it, according to this rubric, it doesn't matter when you do it.
Well, I think this is in my mind, it's written somewhere in the syllabus or whatever.
It is in the syllabus, but not in the rubric.
But that's okay. Because
so what Justin was saying, if you're going to be fair, this should guide all assessment.
Yeah, but I guess in my mind, everybody knows it's supposed to be Wednesday. Now, if you post it 11:58 on Sunday, you really haven't had a chance to interact. And in participation, it talks about interaction. So, and that's why also, in theory, you are not supposed to be able to make up discussions, because if you haven't interact, you can't interact, you can't respond to anyone, nobody can respond to you if you don't do it in the time designated. So there's no ability to make up discussion posts. So that's kind of the way and all the students pretty much are on that train. Alan, I see your hand up.
Yeah, it's been a while since I read the university policy, but on the faculty or on the grievance committee side, there have been students who have disputed discussion grades because the Wednesday deadline is pretty clear, but what is not fully clear, to my knowledge, is saying that you have to post between Wednesday and Sunday. So the students could technically go in on Tuesday and Wednesday and make their discussion postings. And if you dock them for that and the students file a grievance complaint, more than likely the faculty will lose that, because I've seen that happen. So there has been now it's been a few years since that's part of that discussion, but there has been some cases where everybody was in agreement with the Wednesday through Sunday, or most of the people were in agreement with Wednesday through Sunday, but because it's online, it's supposed to be flexible, and as long as students meet that Wednesday deadline and make the postings, so be it. So I would still caution of saying that you have to absolutely post between Wednesday and Sunday, unless that's going to jive with the official university policy for online across the board.
Good point.
Because it does cause headaches on the faculty grievance side. And it's just similar like to the APA format, it'll cause issues. Well, other classes don't make me do this, but this does that. So whatever we do with discussions, I support what you're saying, Casey, when I agree with everything in principle, but we have to make sure that we're aligned with the university policy. But again, it's been a while since I read the official university policy on that, because I've been operating from that mindset that you have to post your initial answer by Wednesday, but they could actually make their overall discussion postings any day of the week, even though it's preferred. So just something that we might want to double check on.
I also think
you're muted, Denise. I don't know how.
There, I don't know. It's you interacted that demonstrated deeper or broader thoughts. Yeah, how are we, gauging what's a deeper thought?
That's
it's critical thinking. I mean, there's some pretty vague statements in these.
And I think
students sometimes look at these discussions as, oh, okay, I'm just going to boxes off. I'm going to put one, I'm going to put two more. They don't like them, and I'm not saying that doesn't mean they're not worthwhile, but sometimes that's Alan, Justin, that's exactly what they're doing. Okay, I did my Wednesday one, I'm going to check, and I took online courses in my doctoral stuff, and I had some of that. Okay, on Wednesday I'm going to post that one, and
Well, and it's hilarious to me that they include APA formatting in this, and it's like, seriously, you want double space? Do you want to? I think this is probably a bigger question beyond us, but I think us in a conversation helps me feel better about processing through it. I'm not at a solid place yet. I think for me, the most important thing is if I have clearly communicated and explained why my expectation is what it is for discussions, and given people an oops, I call it, you get one oops in my class one time, and you, totally forgot, I posted on Sunday night only, I'm so sorry. If you have a teachable spirit and life happens, we're going to move along. But if I don't give you clear explanation for what I expect and tell you why, I guess I have to go back to this, and it doesn't matter when you post, you interacted. I don't know how you measure some of the things that are listed here. You can't quantify them. But anyway, I just want to make sure that we're aware.
You might be able to cover your bases too by, in the first week, adding into those announcements.
That's what, yeah.
And that way it's there on the announcement cover, and you stated that.
Yeah. This is definitely, I think we've hit on something that's bigger than us, but at the same time, it's going to be something that just needs to be talked about more. Okay, so let's finish up together here, if I can find what page I'm on. How often do you guys post within the weekly discussions within your courses? Can you guys just tell me?
It's been a while since, oh, go ahead, Alan.
Go ahead, ma'am.
It's been a while since I've done it, but I know I personally have an opinion that instructor interaction in the posts takes away from student interaction because they're just looking for you to push, but it's also good to give feedback. I actually try and I think there's usually 2 questions. So within the 2 questions, I try and post so that I've kind of hit on every student. I post more than I would like, but you know, the powers that be that are observing that like more interaction from instructors. Alan, what do you do?
I have a little bit of different approach, but I agree with you in principle. I'm actually in discussions daily, but I'm not in discussions daily where I'm looking to overextend myself and get students to think a certain way. I have a format that I do. I don't respond to every single student. I kind of have like my own makeshift way that I acknowledge them all. But I have like 2 days a week where I will expand on content, ask questions, another day where I bring in some resources, bring in some reflection. So I'm in there daily, but I put it in there. I like to put in that I'm kind of steering. So for example, if all the students are taking one perspective, I'm going to encourage them to take another direction or what have you. I agree in principle that if you have too much instructor involvement but not effectively, it can be a negative effect in discussion. But on the flip side, if the students, that's really the learning spot for the online course because there's no other place for interaction for the group. And if you don't really have quality instructor interaction there, and it doesn't have to be daily, it's just that it works for me because sometimes daily could be maybe 2 sentences for one day.
Yeah.
So they have to be very long. But if you don't have quality instructor presence in the discussion board, leading and directing that, then there's really no place for the online instructor in the class except for grading work. And then you have modules for that. So, but I kind of have my own work system that I've done over the years, and I'm always shifting. But there's always that balance of quality and quantity.
Yeah. Justin?
I'll try to be on at least a couple days a week, but because my belief, not all students are engaged at the same level in discussion board, I'm more likely to copy and paste something out of a discussion and add it to an announcement with a title of Week 6 Discussion Follow-Up Thought.
Oh, I like that.
I will link them to another piece of content because the advantage I have, especially when I'm teaching a principal class, is those are the people I'm working with every day, or I'm engaged in something at the state level. Like when the state of Kansas was going through their school finance lawsuit, and I was the president of that organization, and I'm teaching school finance, it's much better for me to be able to pull up real life examples, add them to the discussion board through an announcement versus maybe 50% of the students don't see it because I buried it in the discussion posts. I've tried to do that better.
That's a great idea. I love that extension piece. That's fantastic. Anything else for feedback within? Oh, that's funny. You guys saw my post. I forgot I was sharing a screen. Susan, you are hilarious. This little girl came anyway. Okay. Late assignments, we've kind of already gone over that. I think that's one of those things that every instructor needs to have their own autonomy within how and when to accept. I think we all know those students who push the envelope and have an excuse every time we turn around. But at the same time, I want to make sure that I'm being fair and consistent within things. So want to make sure that we are, if there were any comments or concerns or questions about late assignments. Everybody knows university policy, the 10%. I saw somebody on the Google form put 10% first week, and then after that, 20%. I'm not sure I've seen that in university policy, but I could have missed it. Is that true? Is that an option for us?
Well, I thought it was 10% every week. So
starts at 10% with instructor
Right.
flexibility up to 20%. And where I eventually got frustrated with the same people was they could wait 4 weeks and only possibly lose 10% if you're on the downside of that, versus a student that is maybe has things going on and is trying to meet the deadlines. I didn't feel like it was fair. So I now, if it's within a week, it's 10%. If they don't have an exception for some specific reason, after 7 days, I go 20% to award those that meet timelines, because that's really what you want out of your teachers and principals, is people that are dependable.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think to reiterate those policies in a first week announcement or something. And I think, after a certain point, after 3 weeks, you can't go back and make up those assignments. That's just.
We moved on to other content. Yeah. But you know what? This helps.
Unless something unforeseen has happened.
Sure. And this helps me because I just want to be upfront with my students. And I think a reminder of this policy that is 10% every week off will help me. So thank you for that, because I wasn't aware. These were people's responses within the Google form, if you had a chance to look at those. And then professional development was our last one. You guys all had really positive things to say about what they provide for us. I agree with you. Everyone that I've attended has been helpful. The insight from other people, it helped me not feel so out on my own island or that I was doing anything completely crazy or wacko. Greater variety of topics. I read that comment and I agree with you. And I think we might see some of that happen as we start to bring other instructors in and our programs start to grow a little more. I have to be honest, there are some times when I really wish we would just have one for education, or just have one for business, or just have one for psych, because I think there are issues within each of our subject areas that are maybe more specific to us and not interesting to every other adjunct professor, but maybe that's asking too much in the way of organization and lack of participation. I don't know. Anybody else? All right. So really, conclusion and next steps. Oh, we can do that. Oh, that communities page. You're right, Alan. Nice, nice. Next steps really for me, this was my first opportunity to touch base with all of you. For those of you that couldn't join us and are watching this video, we've missed you. I'm sure it's been a very long time of sitting there watching and not participating, but please know your voice is very valuable. I am not in any way in charge of anything. I'm just here as a conduit to the people who really know stuff. So if you have questions, if you have concerns, if you have issues that come up, please, please, please reach out, because yes, I'm very busy, but this is nothing compared to teaching middle school ELL students. Let's just be real, folks. I can pee when I want to. I don't have to keep track of when Jose needs to go with his mama and who. I am loving my job, and I am completely overwhelmed with the amount of stuff I have to do, but it is so joyful in my spirit that it does not hurt my energy at all. So please know that I'm here. Anyone else, any closing thoughts or anything else? Yes, thank you everyone for the discussion. Nice to learn. Thanks, Laura. Susan, I'm not sure you should have anything on communities page because it hasn't been posted yet, so you haven't missed anything.
And I appreciate when I hear from people, hey, what's the policy, or I haven't heard from the student. So anytime you need support, I know Casey is, there, and I'm absolutely happy to help with the undergrad side.
Yeah.
If you haven't heard from students. And unfortunately, if you haven't heard from them, probably I'm not going to get much of a rise out of them either, but I'm definitely happy to help. And I know Casey is.
Yes. I don't know the answer, but I know who to ask. Well, you guys are wonderful. Thank you so much for your time and your energy. Thank you for everything you do for OU. If you're writing new courses and you want to collaborate or hear any more about who else is writing courses and we all kind of get together, sometimes I think that helps make our courses better because we can have a new, fresh set of eyes on it. Don't want anybody working in a vacuum or feeling alone like you're on an island, because you're not. You're on a cruise ship. I don't know. Does that analogy work for you? We'll go to a show later and hit the slots. I'm kidding. I don't gamble. Anyway, all right, so you guys have a wonderful day, and thank you so much for being here. I will say goodbye from Overland Park. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Goodbye.
All right.